I want to dispel the myth that veganism is something that has to be expensive and that only privileged people can do. You know what, this couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, yeah, I understand where this idea comes from. They see people eating Koyo, Bouja Bouja ice cream, Almond Dream, or lots of exotic fruit like papaya, watermelon, mangoes. I mean, even strawberries are fairly expensive in this country, unless you get them frozen. And they think that veganism is expensive because what they see of veganism on social media a lot of the time is all of this expensive produce or expensive junk food alternatives, and so they think they can't do veganism because they can't afford it. But the reality is veganism doesn't have to be expensive. People can make veganism work on whatever budget for food that you like. It can be as cheap as you like or expensive as you like. It just depends on what you're buying, where you're getting it from, and yeah, basically that's it. I mean, some vegan foods such as rice and beans are some of the cheapest foods on the planet, and that's not just in the UK, that is in all countries. That rice and beans are relatively cheap staple foods, and they're vegan. So the argument that veganism is expensive is a bit ridiculous, to be honest. And yeah, obviously eating a diet of only rice and beans isn't healthy, but if you're that poor anyway that you can only afford a diet of rice and beans as a vegan, then were you really getting a nutritionally balanced diet in the first place anyway? I would doubt it. And, you know, the majority of the people can afford a lot more than rice and beans in their weekly shops, you know, about, or at least the majority of people in Western countries. So, you know, you can get a nutritionally balanced diet on a budget as a vegan. You just don't shop at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or M&S or Waitrose. You shop at Asda or Tesco or Aldi or Lidl. And obviously, you know, like Walmart if you live in the US. You don't buy expensive exotic fruits apart from when they're on offer maybe, or as a treat. So, and instead you buy salads, which are fairly cheap. You stick to frozen fruit maybe, because that's obviously a lot cheaper. Bananas, apples. There's plenty of options to be vegan on a budget. You can eat plenty of carbohydrates, plenty of starches, you know, pasta and potatoes, obviously, as well as the rice are relatively cheap. And you can even eat junk food as a vegan on a budget. You just don't eat from like the vegan only companies. You eat things like Oreos, which you can get 2 packets for £1 in the Pound World near me, and Lotus biscuits and Bourbons. Surprisingly, quite a few Bourbons are vegan, and Bourbons are quite cheap. So, you know, no argument for how veganism is expensive. And if you want like vegan cake or something, like obviously they can be expensive to buy, but expensive to make? Not really. I mean, bearing in mind that, you know, flour, sugar, oil, what else do you need for a vegan cake? Plant milk, maybe. You know, maybe vegan butter, if that floats your boat. These things aren't necessarily expensive, and they're things obviously that are going to last, like, especially if you go for the oil instead of vegan butter. They're going to last for multiple makings. And plant milk, like soya milk's 59p a litre, and it's probably something you're going to be having in the house regularly anyway. Obviously, if you're soya intolerant, then you have to pay a bit more money to get your milk alternatives, but you can be a healthy vegan without milk alternatives as long as you're making sure you're getting enough calcium from other sources, because obviously quite a few are supplemented with calcium. And yeah, sorry if this was a bit of a babble. I am undercarbed because it is lunchtime and I'm going to go make some pasta, probably, maybe, don't know what I'm having, probably pasta. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.